Today, we're not talking about some famous CEO or celebrated innovator. Nope. Instead, we're diving into the quiet wisdom of a totally ordinary manager. A guy who figured out how to survive inside a massive corporate machine, all thanks to one simple, powerful truth he lived by. And this was it. This was the rule that guided every single decision he made. He just knew, from experience, that when you take away all of someone's options, you don't get obedience. You get desperation. And desperation, well, that always leads to lies that eventually blow up in everyone's face. So, who was this guy really? He wasn't some hero you'd read about in the company newsletter. He was a cog in the machine. And you know what? He was okay with that. But his story shows how one single cog, working smartly, can keep the entire engine from grinding to a halt. He was a mid-level manager at a Japanese manufacturing firm, stuck right in the middle of a really complex web of subcontractors. His job was pretty straightforward on paper: take the demands for faster speeds and lower costs from headquarters and somehow make them a reality with the suppliers on the ground. He was, the classic man in the middle. In that position, it put him under just immense pressure from two totally opposite directions. It was a daily dilemma, and there were just no easy answers. This slide really just lays out the fundamental conflict he lived with. On one side, you have corporate headquarters demanding more efficiency, lower costs. But on the other side, his partners are these small, family-run businesses using old equipment already stretched so thin they're about to snap. If he pushed them any harder, they would absolutely break. But if he didn't, his own career was on the line. And the thing is, he was totally on his own. The only advice he got from his bosses was, just handle it. So that isolation, it forced him to come up with his own strategy, one that wasn't built on some business school theory, but on a hard-won truth he learned from seeing things go wrong. He just knew that forcing people into corners was the single most dangerous thing a manager could possibly do. It didn't create efficiency. All it did was create the perfect conditions for a total catastrophe. He saw this exact chain reaction play out over and over again. It starts with an impossible demand. That leads to a lie because the subcontractor is desperate to keep the business. That lie forces them to cut corners. And those cut corners, sooner or later, they turn into a massive, costly disaster. He decided his real job was to break this chain before it even got started. So, okay, if he wasn't going to squeeze his partners, what was the alternative? Well, he did the complete opposite. He built them a way out. He actually called it designing escape routes. He had this really clear playbook for how to deal with everyone he worked with: the company, the client, the subcontractor, and the whole goal was just to make it possible for people to be honest. And here's the breakdown of his playbook. When dealing with his own company, he only used data. With clients, he focused on the process, not pointing fingers. And, maybe most importantly, with his subcontractors, he gave them the real, accurate information they needed. This let them make smart decisions instead of just desperate ones. Now, the way he phrased things here is just brilliant. By saying, "consult me beforehand," he wasn't showing weakness. He was creating a rule. He was making it safe for his partners to raise a red flag. He gave them permission to say no before a problem could spiral out of control. This is exactly how he talked to his own bosses. He just stripped all the emotion out of the conversation. Instead of saying, "this is impossible," he'd say, "okay, if we do this, our defect rate is likely to go up, and the total cost to fix everything will be higher than what we save." He just laid out the facts and let management own the final decision, and, of course, the responsibility that came with it. So, what happened? What was the result of all this? Well, his department never posted some spectacular, record-breaking numbers. His version of success, it looked and sounded very, very different. Yeah, his success was the absence of noise. While all the other managers were constantly on the phone, putting out fires, dealing with angry clients, and managing scandals, his department was just quiet. It ran smoothly, consistently, and without all the drama. And you can actually see it right here in the data. Because he focused on prevention, on giving people those escape routes, his team had dramatically fewer quality issues and major accidents than everybody else. That quietness was a real measurable result. And this is probably the most important number of all. 0. 0 fatal accidents. 0 whistleblowing incidents. 0 public scandals coming out of his department. He was preventing disasters before they even had a chance to happen. So what was the deeper philosophy here? I mean, why choose this path of quiet stability over chasing aggressive, headline-grabbing growth? The answer is actually surprisingly practical. See, it wasn't about idealism or just trying to be a nice guy. It was a cold, rational calculation for his own long-term survival. He knew that lies create messes, expensive, time-consuming, career-ending messes, and he just decided he wasn't going to spend his career cleaning them up. Simple as that. He didn't try to be a hero. He didn't try to fight the whole system. He understood his place. He accepted his role as just one part of a much larger machine. But he made a crucial choice within that role. And this, right here, is the core of his dignity. He found his purpose not in trying to become more than a cog, but in being the best damn cog he could be. One that absorbed pressure, that maintained stability, and crucially, one that refused to let the system break the people who were relying on him. It's a really powerful lesson in a different and maybe more sustainable kind of leadership.